I had to deal with the relentless fucking bollocks I've had over the weekend due to fucking Max's reaction to my initial thoughts on the race while I was filled with anger. I was like, I want to talk about the race, obviously, but I was like, what is the fuck is going on here, man? What the fuck? And I stand by my belief, one of the worst raid tiers ever designed. Yeah. I hate the raid. I hate this raid design. I think it's one of the worst of all time. I really do. And the more research, but I had some revelations actually in the last couple of hours. Yeah, probably from like 7. I was looking through some data. Mythic raiding in general is not doing well in World of Warcraft. It's not doing well. Like, it's been dropping steadily. Like, I did some quick numbers. It's been dropping steadily since, like, Legion. Down in... Not, like, by a lot, but declining, right? Declining. And at this point, there's only about... It floats around 1,600 to 1,400 guilds that do Mythic at all. In a season, right? Not counting people who go and re-clear it post-season in higher gear. So when the season stops... It's about 45 to 50,000 people total that are taking part in Mythic raiding these days. It's not a lot of people, man. It's not a lot of people. And honestly, it's really fucking sad for me. Because obviously I built everything... I said to Chris, like, we're sat in this office because of how much I wanted to encourage people to take part in what I thought was one of the best elements of gaming I'd ever experienced and all that. And I'm looking at it, and I had some, like, thoughts. These are, like, crackpot theory thoughts. I was like, I mean, the general TLDR of why I really hate this raid design is it cock-blocked. How do I word this? This is the trouble I've had trying to put this together. For years, there has been a lot of angst about the Mythic raiding scene because a lot of people said it was designed for the race to world first, right? Which was... cutting out a lot of people. And for the most part, there is some evidence to that, but they were balancing it in a way that kind of worked for both. Kind of. Yeah, some anomalies that popped up here and there, but generally speaking, it was very accessible by Mythic raiding guilds, right? That's not everybody, but by the Mythic raiding guilds. And in Nerebar, we had this really weird moment, which many of you will remember, where 4 out of 8 were very killable. In fact, you know what I checked today? I'm going on a bit of a rant here. I can't help it. I can't help it because I'm really sad. I'm genuinely really sad. Is that on day 2, now we had Heroic Week in Nerebar, right? We had Heroic Week, which means a lot of the splits were done in the week before. Not that they didn't do splits the next week, but they had a lot of splits done then. On day 2, a lot of guilds had already killed 4 bosses. Day 2. And that's decent until you realize that everybody then hit a wall, and by day, I think 7, only 2 guilds had done anything more than that. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced a raid in WoW or FF14. FF14 doesn't really apply, actually. This would be a WoW only thing because of the way it's designed, where you hit a wall where the boss is unkillable. Now, it's quote-unquote unkillable, right? So the top guilds in the world, usually 1, 2, or 3 or whatever, will kill it. But it's asking for things that are so far outside of the norm. Do you see why I struggle with this? Because it needs nuance, and the internet is very black and white, and it's a problem I've had throughout my entire career, is we often do talk about things that require some nuance, where people want a yes or no answer. So it's very hard for me to articulate in a way that people give a shit about. And it's tough. But, like, when you say unkillable, you're talking about, like, the guilds that do prep. They're very good players, but they can't field 5 Death Knights and 4 Warriors and then field 5 Mages and for the next boss. They can't do that, right? And that's what happened in Nerebar. Is you had Brood Twister, it required this, like, meat grinder composition, and then you needed Kaiveza, which required a totally different one, right? And these guilds literally just had to stop playing their favorite game and wait for Blizzard to change the bosses. And that's awful. It's absolutely awful. It's an awful feeling where you're like, I set aside time in my life. I do tons of work leading up to this. Yeah, I'm playing with my friends, but I'm farming the same raid over and over again. I'm preparing maybe 1 or even 2 alts or something like that. We're doing boost runs for gold to pay for everything. All this kind of shit that the top 50 or whatever do. And now I just can't play the game. I just have to wait. It's terrible. So you would think, like, after that feedback in Nerobar, which hit a lot of guilds, that they wouldn't do that again. And they did. And this time they decided to do it earlier than they did it in Nerobar. Right? They did it by boss 3. They did it by boss 3. And we were looking through the stats. At the end of the first reset, like 800 guilds had done boss 1, and 4 had done the 3rd boss. By day 11, only 7 guilds had managed 4 bosses in the whole raid. By day 11. That's coming to the end of the 2nd reset. And we're not talking about shitty guilds here. These are people who will finish in the top 20 in the world, right? Of a very niche hard mode in itself. And that's all they'd managed to accomplish. I don't know if you guys have been following the nerfs to the raid. Maybe you don't care. But they have crushed. Now, my DMs were filling up with people who are like, when are they nerfing this? Why have they designed it this way? The Race to World First is just fucking over everybody. And it's hard to disagree, because that's what was happening, right? That's what was happening. Like, if those who did follow the race, you'll probably remember Sprocketmonger. Like, you could hit 2 of those one-shot orbs and you're fine. You could totally heal it up. Like, you could have people run into them and do all sorts of shit and it's fine. Like, they totally just, like, crushed that fight. What they've done to pro Sprocketmonger is, like, a fucking crime, man. It's like George Lucas with fucking Indiana Jones. They, like, brutal. It's a shreds. Yeah, it's a shreds. And this is the earlier bosses. So on the back of that, what we could say is like, okay, so this raid tier is bad for everybody outside the race to world first, but at least we should get a good race to world first out of it. And for me and for many others, including many members of Liquid, we got a really flat ending. So we didn't even get that. We had this like secret boss, quote unquote, right? Not that I think that the secretiveness of the Dungeon Journal was a big deal to the top guilds. They could figure it out within seeing it in a matter of seconds. And we didn't get that either. That's why I hate this raid tier. It didn't work for anybody. It was bad for the rest of the game, and it was bad for the Race to World First guilds. But here's the twist on it, right? The feedback wasn't that. The feedback was actually that the last boss is really easy. That's good news. I was like, why is that good news? Because it made me very angry. It's like, yeah, but you're so screwed earlier on that you're just going to have to wait for these massive nerfs. And then it dawned on me, it's like a lot of these people aren't playing Mythic. And in fact, the statistical numbers back that up. There's a lot of very strong opinions coming from people who this has no effect on whatsoever. Now, there are people who are a part of it, and they're rightfully upset. But a lot of people who are just angry in general about it. I'm probably a big invested fans. I'm not, like, playing down their takes or whatever. But selling mounts is definitely an aspect. It's become very, very accepted and normal, certainly over the last few years, that people just buy the Mythic mount. It's been going on forever. Don't get me wrong. It's been going on. I've been taking part in boosting since Dragonflight. Not Dragonflight. Dragon Soul. Right? It was my first time boosting people. So it's been going on since Cataclysm and before and shit like that. But it's very common and accepted, especially with the way Classic works, to have that happen. And then it kind of dawned on me as like, maybe it's just not what it... Maybe the way I care about raiding and the way I like to view it. Because, like, the Race to World First is my World Cup. And I know a lot of people are never going to be convinced. And frankly, there's nothing I can do about that. I really don't care who wins. Like, there's 2 sides of it, right? My personal bias. I want to get this out because it means a lot to me, right? So sorry if this is boring to some people. On my personal side, as Mike, I want Echo to win. I've known those guys for 20 years. I've known them longer than my children. The longest known person I've got with Team Liquid is Max, who I think our first conversation was in 2018, where he asked me for advice, and I'm glad he never took it because of what happened shortly after that. But at the time, it seemed like the right way. You know, that was the first conversation I ever had with Max on a rooftop in LA. He was like asking advice about moving into the Race to World first, and we had a good talk. And he didn't take it, which again, I'm glad for. But for the Echo guys, all the way back in Method, all the trials, I've been through a lot of, as some of you are familiar with the history of the Race to World First, I've been through some very rough times with them, and I've suffered along with them. And some very high highs and some very, very low lows. Like, we've gone through a lot of shit together with a lot of those players over the years. So yeah, my personal side is like, yeah, I would like Echo to win. I love the Liquid guys when I've had a chance to meet them. Fired Up is wonderful. Shakib is hilarious. I've never, you know, those people, Atlas, Scott. Scott is a really interesting, funny, straight to the point dude. Loved having a talk with him whenever I had a chance. But I only get to meet them at like BlizzCon and things like that, right? I've casted for Liquid briefly, but it was online. I never got to meet the players. I've been to the facility and things. But other than that, not really. Well, I've never got... THD's never shows up at anything besides the event, and I've never been to the event. Like, I would do a lot to have a drink with THD. A lot. He's a cutie. He's a cutie and really fun. So yeah, my personal side is obviously I prefer Echo to win because they're my friends and I know them very well. But on the business side, the other side, the preach side, I want a good race. I want a race that is a pinnacle of the community and will live long after Echo and Liquid are gone, because there will be a day when they're not there, and I want that to be good. And what I see happening, it's not happened yet, but what I see happening is the destruction of the race. And I don't like it. And it really upsets me. Because what I see is resentment now. A lot of resentment from the Mythic players because they're looking at raids like Undermine and Nerobar and going like, this isn't even made for us anymore. And we're already niche. And it fucking sucks. And it's great for like 60 players in the world, but for us it fucking sucks. So I'm seeing that resentment. I'm seeing a lot of resentment from the casual viewer when we have 4 or 5 days of splits. If you were to go to the Olympics and it's the 100-meter race and they said go, and then the guys went and did like 30 training sessions and then went shopping for their shoes, then they went getting fitted up for their shorts and their shirts, and then in a few days they'd start running. That doesn't work, right? Doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing it in my chat as well. I usually skip the splits, right? So there's that resentment that's coming even from the casual audience, because I've always wanted the belief that even if most people can't take part in Mythic raiding for a number of reasons, and at least we can live vicariously through the Race to World First, right? Even if our lives no longer allow us, like in my case, I just do not have the time in my life to raid at Mythic level anymore, at all. Can't do it, but I can live vicariously through the raid. I'm sure there's a lot of people like me like that, or casual watchers, or people who used to play the game, still get to check in for the race, but now they're tuning in, they're getting splits for multiple days, and Lord knows we try and put on the best show possible to get us through that, and we do very good at it, but that's not fun. And then there's the resentment of like the payoff not being kind of worthwhile at the end if you suffer through that or you join later. That's happening as well. And it's like, I don't want the race to go away. Now, I know I feel strongly about it, but maybe other people don't. I mean, that's been a lot of the feedback I've had to self-reflect on over the last few days, is like, you feel more strongly about this than most people. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I am the biggest fan. And I don't want to see it disappear, and I don't want to see it go away. But ultimately, has the player base changed? People are taking less and less part in it. I don't know. Maybe. 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 And that's what makes me really sad. Does that make sense? Does what I just said then make sense? Yeah, I mean, I hope that makes sense. That's why I'm kind of sad, because I can see these things happening, and that's why I'm so angry about this raid tier. I'm like, there's very little positive to pull out of this race. Like, I was very excited, sort of, end of Reset 1, beginning of Reset 2, because we had, like, Echo take the lead, and then Liquid took the lead. I was like, dude, this is shaping up If we put to the side that it's fucking everybody else, which I've got no hand in, right? That's the way it's been done. I don't agree with it at all. But maybe we're going to get something good, and then it just died. I haven't watched the whole reaction, because I just didn't have time. But yeah, teeth bubbling, those kind of moments. Yeah, I was looking forward to. But I mean, most of the stuff that I've seen on the reactions to Max's stuff is like he wouldn't be saying this if Echo won. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if Echo got to Gallywix and basically point for point repeated what Liquid did, I would still say this is embarrassing. I don't care if you believe me or not, but that is absolutely the call I would have made. It would not have changed. I would have fucking slaughtered. In fact, it would have been more intense. I would have slaughtered Blizzard for that. I would absolutely have done that. Yeah, I would absolutely have done that. No, Max is more reasonable. Like I say, he hasn't chatted with me about it, and I actually think we're probably on the same page on a lot of things. Yeah, I'm not shitting on Max by any means. Not all. But it's the narrative is that's how I feel about it. It feels counterintuitive if you look at it through the lens of Mike wants X and Y to win. I want the race to be phenomenal. I want the people to enjoy it, and that encourages Blizzard to also create these magical moments for the race, because we're living through it vicariously, right? Do you understand where I'm coming from? I hope you do. If you don't, I'm sorry, but like that's where I'm coming from. But I was sat in the room with the Method guys, and I can't help but tell you, like when Limits achieved their first world first and toppled the giant that was Method at the time, I could not have been happier for those guys. I was over the moon for them. To watch that video, it was the first time I had casted a race where it was a loss, right? It was the very first time. And when I got to watch, I think I was casting at the time when Limit won. I think I was on the couch, so I didn't get to watch it. But watching that was phenomenal. I was so happy for them, and I think it's their, probably next to Ansarek, that was their best ever moment. I think for me, personally, based on what was going on, their N'Zoth kill was the best one ever. And I would put, like, Ansarek as second, because Ansarek was phenomenal as well. Like, that moment for me, as a race fan, as a fan of the race, that was epic. The Giants were toppled, the Kings were dethroned, and these guys deserved it and worked hard for it. And I fucking loved that. I loved that so, so much. I could separate those two things. Yeah. I can separate those two things. I just want more guilds, right? I've worked for it. Now, one thing I can never deny, which is absolutely true, is I feed off the energy of what's going on at the events. It's why I don't do online casting. I can't stand it, right? Unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't like doing it. I don't like it. I feed off the energy in the room. And when the guys were taking breaks and be like, this fucking boss, these fucking bugs we're running into, all that shit I feed into. So yeah, Roger's going like, why did they change this boss so much? Right? This is before Liquid killed it. But they're like, what is this boss? It's like bits and pieces of what they intentionally designed it to be. And we tried to bring that up on the cast a little bit. It's like, this boss has been changed hugely from what it was supposed to be to what it is. But I mean, here's the nuance. I think there's people listening to me saying this, saying that Echo lost to Liquid on Mugsy in time or whatever because it was bugged. No. Nuance. Echo also kind of shit the bed on Mugsy. They didn't get enough tries where the bug would have been a factor to overcome it, like Liquid did, right? There's not mutually exclusive things, which I think is just lost on so many people. And it really upsets me, because it's like, it's not that hard to understand, as both things can be true. Yes, it was bugged to fuck, but also, they also didn't play exactly perfectly at that fight, right? By a long way. Echo made mistakes. They didn't push the one-arm bandit advantage they had. They didn't do that, right? That was pretty clear. Their re-clears of Gallywix in the splits was not great. They had way more wipes than they should have had. But at the same time, we were also kind of chilling because we're like, okay, Mugsy's not best performance, but at least we got the last boss. Like, if you remember, like, Amirdrasil, for example, Liquid were pulling Farak, had like 30-40 pulls on Farak before Echo killed Tindral, right? There was a long investment, but the last boss is going to be meaty. It's a secret boss. Right? We've got this secret thing coming up and all that. And then we got that other ending. I'm like, this is bad for our viewers, and it's bad for people who give a shit about the race. Like, why would you tune into this? It's a good question. Because I wouldn't want to watch this. If I had any sort of prescience that this was going to be the way this would run, I'm not tuning in for that. I'm tuning in for the memes maybe, but I'm into the memes more than I'm into the race itself. And that's why I hate this raid tier in general. Yeah.